TV3 did a much better job than TVNZ did on Fonterra tonight, because, as I said, it feels like TVNZ, and we talked about this last night, and part of it, I think, Bomber, it would appear that part of the problem is because the news media has been gutted, we're losing, reporters and journalists hand over fist, that now you don't have enough time to look into everything in any great detail. However, I'm not going to quite accept that because that's your job. You need to do that. But it does feel like quite often, it's just not about national either, about any political party, that a journalist will reprint, a fact sheet sent by party X. And that's the story. It did feel a bit that way by TVNZ tonight. TV3, I think, did a better job. And they kind of went a bit, they got into it, because they got the position from the Greens, because it's like, we feed the world, says Nicola Willis. The Greens are kind of saying, but at any cost? Is that what we really want to do? Let's have a look at 3 News tonight.
No mai haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. Fonterra has delivered one of its strongest financial results for shareholders, with a whopping $16 billion in cash returns driven by demand from overseas. That explains the high price of dairy products at the supermarket, such as butter and milk. The Greens say that's unfair and believe it's time for New Zealand to diversify away from dairy. Political correspondent Zane Small reports.
$10 for a 500-gram block of butter. The new normal for supermarket shoppers paying the price for strong demand for dairy overseas.
Our prices are tied to the global markets. Like for butter, for example, we export maybe 90% of the butter we make. So it is natural that the local prices match what's going on in the export markets.
Fonterra today announced a total of $16.2 billion in cash returns to shareholders, up 30.6% on the previous year. Chief Executive Miles Hurrell said the dairy cooperative continues to see good demand from global customers for high-quality products made from New Zealand farmers' milk, and this is driving returns.
I wouldn't call it a surprising result. They've been signaling for quite some time that things are going well. But yeah, it's an excellent result, even slightly exceeding what the market was anticipating.
You can see why in the stats. In the 12 months to July, exports of milk powder, butter and cheese increased 17%. And during that same 12-month period, the price of milk increased 16%, while butter prices shot up 42.2%.
This is a kind of a side note to the story, but you're never going to convince me that there couldn't be some kind of legislation to have the country from which your product is made be not necessarily driven by export prices. I pay for the roads that your Fonterra trucks drive down. I'm in part an investor in the finances that allows you to do that. The person in Perth or London or New York, they're not. And if it wasn't for our public, our public health system probably has helped you, the farmers out. Our public education system has helped the farmers out. I'm sure there's been time where either individual farmers or Fonterra have had to claw back some of that tax money because they haven't had a very good year. And that tax money is in part in a pool of money thanks to other New Zealanders. So I will not accept that we have to pay the prices based on export prices, because when you export to another country, that other country has zero investment in you. The amount of money we as New Zealanders pay into the system, that then and I'm not saying this in a bad way, I'm not throwing it in your faces, but that the farmers and the companies benefit from, we should see a return for that more than this is what it does for our GDP. You know what I mean, Bomber?
Preach.
Yeah. Frustrates me. All right, we'll keep going on the story.
We should celebrate this success for what it is. It's the hard work of many people over generations.
Sorry, did you throw up in the back of your mouth a little bit there? Was that?
I just think Fonterra is the worst fucking example of capitalism that we have in this country. Let's not forget, just to remind the snarly little shark there. Let's just remind ourselves, we made Fonterra a monopoly, right? Like we all agreed to be able to maximize sales overseas. We'll make the monopoly. So we wiped out domestic competition, right, to create the monopoly. We all agreed to do that. So that they could get the best price on the international market. The problem, the flip side to that, there are only 5 million New Zealanders. We are competing against a Chinese middle class of 500 million. How the living Christ are we ever going to be able to compete, right? Now, the whole argument that we have told ourselves over decades is diversification, diversification. So we created all of these brands, right? Which they're now selling off. And you know why they're selling off the brands? Because they're not making the money from the brands. We sell basic bitch milk powder, just like we sell basic bloody logs without doing any added stuff. Just like we're now shipping animals overseas to be killed without no extra value created. We're going for the most basic version of us because 90% of the milk of the 90% of the dairy is milk powder that is used in the heavily industrialized food industry, right? It's a base ingredient for shitty chocolate. It's a base ingredient for shitty mass manufactured food. The millisecond, and I mean the goddamn millisecond, the fast food industry is able to come up with a synthetic calcium casing, right? Which is what vast amounts of research is going into overseas right now.
Yeah.
They won't need our milk powder. If you're able to create a synthetic milk casing, right, for 10% of the price of actual, real, organic cow made, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they go, oh, our heavily saturated shit food full of sugar and fat and unhealthy crap, oh, organic milk is where we are going to draw the line? They will not give a shit about our organic milk. They will immediately replace our milk with the synthetic cheaper product and we will be bankrupt. This country will be bankrupt. The dairy industry is a sunset industry. The moment they can create synthetic, we're gone. And what will happen? Here's what will happen. There will be breaking news. Someone's been able to do the synthetic milk casing, right? And they're going to market with immediately. And you watch. The share market will tear its asshole out and we will collapse overnight. Because all we're doing is selling a base ingredient now. The moment you can create that base ingredient cheaper, we're gone. So we are paying a price for these cows that fart and shit into our water. So we're paying for an emissions cost. We're paying for water that's stolen. We're then paying for water that's dirtied. And we can't get this product that's made in our own country at a price that the international market. I just think Fonterra is the worst bloody company. Yeah. And when that synthetic casing does come, 2 years, 3 years from now, we are right royally rooted. She doesn't seem to notice that.
Yeah, I did notice though. This is a little side note, but the last time she was doing she seems to be the only MP that does sit down stand ups. But she was doing a sit down stand up at her desk. The Fonterra truck from behind her had gone off her shelf. Don't know if that's saying anything, but I noticed it had gone, and that's a real thing. Let's go back to old Nikki No Boats, shall we?
And actually it's keeping a light on in parts of the economy where we really want to see it.
It's a tricky issue for the beehive because on the one hand, strong demand for dairy means higher returns for farmers, which is good for economic growth. But it also means that consumers pay a higher price at the supermarket, which isn't so great for a government that promised to address the rising cost of living.
It's not fair. I think Fonterra need to make sure that they're looking after New Zealanders first and foremost. People can't afford to put food on the table. It's not fair that Fonterra just reaps the profit.
Steve Abel of the Green Party believes it's time for New Zealand to diversify away from dairy.
Diversity is strength. We need to see more diversity, particularly here in Canterbury, where the impact of the dairy industry is worsening nitrate water contamination, where people can't even drink the water from their kitchen tap.
Yes.
The farmer will be so confused because Steve looks like one of them. He's got the beard. He's wearing the swan dry. He looks like one of them, but these words coming out of his mouth that just don't seem to resonate. But he's looks the part, so that'll be very confusing to some farmers out there.
Steve Abel is a great man. I had the fortune many years ago in a Greenpeace action. We stormed one of the coal fire power stations up north and set up a pirate radio station on top of it. he's a great guy, and he's someone who really understands the economics behind this industry.
All right. Let's go back to Ms. Willis.
To diversification, but let's do that with a really strong backbone. And agriculture does provide that for New Zealand. We should be proud of it. We feed the world.
Such stupid words. It's like fucking Americans talking about patriotic. Got to be patriotic. We should be proud. Why should we be proud of it? So something that we do well, we should be proud of it. You know, it's like I've never really understood that. I've never understood. It's like
what you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, exactly.
We feed 40 million people, not with our cheese and our butter. We feed those people industrialized candy because our milk powder is just an ingredient filler, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah. All right.
Sustainably and efficiently than any other country.
If we didn't have dairy contributing to those to that export story, our exchange rate would be a lot lower. It'd be a lot more expensive to import other goods, and we would be worse off overall.
But that doesn't make it any easier for households paying 40% more for a block of butter compared to a year ago.
Now, I don't think we necessarily have to go and compare ourselves to international countries that we're not similar to, but I do sometimes think about places in the Middle East who produce oil who then pay next to nothing for their petrol because it's much cheaper for them to produce. So there is a case to be had for the home market not being of international prices. It's my biggest frustration. And Bomber, what you're saying, if we don't diversify, it's interesting hearing Nicola saying, yes, we do need to diversify, but she's basically saying, but as long as we do it through agriculture, including the dairy sector. Well, that's not really diversification then.
When John Key was in power, he put all our cows in one Beijing paddock. And the problem with the intensification that was required to lift those milk production rates was that it locked a lot of farmers into debt with their bank. So they didn't have a choice, right? So we've got more cows, more methane release from those cows, more water being used and dirty because of those cows. And then you and I have to pay the same price that the international market, who are many millions of times larger than we are, we're getting screwed over here, and it's the worst kind of capitalism.